Hi, hello guys, this is Vijay, biology lecturer from Alage Junior College. As you know that we have started our NEET series. Based on that we are discussing about NEET biology and NEET chemistry, each and every chapters in detail, and also we are discussing the practice numericals. In that category today we are going to discuss about NEET biology, plant kingdom, unit 2, algae in detail. Let's start. Okay. So, in the previous video, guys, we have discussed about the characteristic features of algae under the category of this plant kingdom, and today we are going to discuss about what are the different groups present in the category of algae. So, here are three different groups we are going to discuss. One is red algae, and second one, that is called brown algae, and green algae. So red algae which are also called as rhodophytae, and brown algae which are also called as phaeophytae, and the green algae which are also called as chlorophytae. So these all are the different names of under the category of these algae. Now let us talk about the photosynthetic pigments which are present in each and every categories. Say for example, like red algae, we could able to see the following pigments they could involve for the photosynthesis. Okay, like phycobilins, and which is also derived in another form like phycocyanin. This is one of the the pigment which is involving for photosynthesis. For the algae belongs to red algae or rhodophytae. And brown algae, here we could able to see like some special type of carotenoids and fucoxanthin. So these all are the pigments can be involving for the photosynthesis. Like green algae or chlorophytae, where we could able to see like beta carotene and other carotenoids types pigments which is involving photosynthesis. Right. Next, talking about the storage food or the reserve food. Yes, storage food for this, the first category called red algae, they are usually like, Floridian starch. So usually starch as the, reserve food or the storage food that can be seen in red algae. Like brown algae, we could able to see like lipid and mannitol. So these all are the storage food. Lipid is one of the most important storage food can be seen in the brown algae. And similarly, green algae, again we could able to see starch. Starch is the reserve food or the storage food after the photosynthesis process. Next, talking about the complexity, the structure. The structure for the red algae usually can be seen like unicellular and multicellular. So unicellular organism also be included, and the multicellular organism also can be seen under the category of red algae. Similarly, brown algae which involves for all the multicellular organisms, and again the green algae, there we could able to see both like unicellular and multicellular type of organisms can be seen. Next, talking about the cell wall of red algae, brown algae and green algae. Right. Cell wall for the red algae, they are usually cellulozoic type, and brown algae cellulozoic type can be seen under the category of this green algae. And in a red algae we could able to see the non-cellulozoic polysaccharides and with the xylose, galactose. So these all are the the components present in the cell wall. Similarly, brown algae we could able to see cellulozoic with alginic acid or fucinic acid. These are the components can be seen in the cell wall of the brown algae. Right. Then talking about the flagellation. Flagellation is nothing but it is an apparatus can be seen on the outermost surface of the living being or the organisms. So in chlorophytae or the green algae, there we could able to see more than one or two flagella can be seen, and usually they could be appearing from the anterior end of the organism, and they are usually smooth and apical. Similarly, brown algae we could able to see like two unequal or that can be seen on the lateral sides of the organism from the cell wall. And similarly, the red algae, the flagellation usually could not be seen. I mean, the formation of flagella which are totally absent. So these are the different groups under the category of algae which belongs to the three different categories such as the red algae, brown algae and green algae, chlorophyta, phaeophyta and rhodophyta. These are the three categories of algae group under the category of algae. So now let us talk about how far the algae organisms or the members of algae adapt themselves for surviving in water or on the surface of water. Okay, so let us see the following characteristic features which are helping for the algae or the members of algae. They would adapt themselves as choosing the habitat for the water. So let us see one by one. Yes. So the first and foremost characteristic features of the algae, they do not possess the vascular tissues like the angiosperms or the seed bearing plants. We could able to see the well defined or the well developed vascular tissues such as like xylem, phloem, and that they could involve for the conduction of nutrients and the water. Yes. So these could not be seen in algae because of the reason is algae which is present surrounding area which is already damp soil or the moist places or the water. Yes. So the continuous supply of water can be seen in the algae as well as the continuous supply of nutrients can be seen in the algae organism. That is the reason they do not possess the vascular tissues. Next, talking about the surrounding area of the algae where it is living, which is filled with water or it is surround the entire area where the algae can be seen with water, and this water could help for the buoyancy processes for algae members or the organism belongs to algae, and they do not require any mechanical tissues such as like sclerenchyma, to form the woody plants to stand erect. So here it is not required, though which is present in the surrounding areas of water. Next, talking about the flexibility of the algae. See the algal thallus which looks very smooth and they are flexible. Due to this particular adaptation, they could able to survive at high tides and severe water current that can be seen under the water or the ocean current. Do not injure this thallus or the body of the algae. So the flexibility of the algae that could help for the movement of the water current, and they could able to survive or adapt themselves for the surviving at high tides. And the next one, like usually the algae which are involving for asexual and sexual mode of reproduction, and the sexual mode of reproduction for algae that could help for the fusion of gametes through the water. Here it is acting as a suitable medium, the fusion of the gametes. Similarly, the asexual spores which are produced from the algae that could be move along with the water current, and they also could develop into a new algae. The habitat of the water for algae which are surviving that could favorable for the sexual and asexual mode of reproduction for algae members. Let us talk about red algae in detail. Yes, red algae and its characteristic features, which are also called as the Rhodophyceae. Red algae, which are also called as Rhodophyceae, about 5,254 species. 5,254 species which are known to the category of red algae, that could be related to 831 genera of the red algae, out of which 348 species that belongs to 117 genera which are recorded from India. So these are the number or the diversity of algae throughout the world. Next, talking about the habitat. Mostly the red algae, they are marine and they could survive under the ocean They occur in almost all the oceans that can be seen. Next, talking about the appearance, they are usually the most showy of all the seaweeds, and they are graceful being lace like. They looks totally like ornamental. So and the size of this red algae usually that ranges from the unicellular to half the meter in their length. So unicellular organisms also be the member under the category of red algae, as well as the multicellular organisms also can be seen under this category. So next we are going to discuss about pigment. What type of pigment can be seen under the category of red algae? Usually phycoerythrin or phycocyanin are the two different pigments which are also called as paleoproteins. These type of chlorophyll pigments which are present in red algae, which are same as in the cyanobacteria, but in cyanobacteria the phycocyanin that could be found more quantity as comparing to this red algae or the rhodophyte. And red pigments which are usually helping for absorbing the blue-green wavelength from the visible spectrum. With the help of that, the organism could able to survive in the water environment. Next, talking about the color. The red algae owe their name due to the characteristic features of their color, red color. In the greater depth of the sea, the red algae that could exhibit more redness due to more quantity of the pigment which are available called phycoerythrin. And blue-green wavelength of the sunlight which are reaching maximum depth of the sea, which are observed by phycophilin pigments. However, in the shallower region or the depthless region of the sea, the red algae that could exhibit green color due to the more quantity which are present chlorophyll in the surrounding. And red algae is due to the nature of their pigments and their light absorbing capacity, they are able to grow in the depth or the deep layer of the sea or the ocean. So next we are going to talk about the reserve food or the storage product. The reserve food material which are usually can be seen under the category of this rhodophyte or red algae are the Floridian starch and galactoside, floridoside, which are the reserve food that can be seen under this category of the members. Then talking about the flagella, flagellated cells are lagging altogether in the red algae. There are no flagellated cells because they could able to have the adaptation to survive under the water. Next, talking about the cell wall. Cell wall of the red algae which are made up of polysulfate esters. These are along with the pectic material, and usually cellulose also could be seen in the members of these red algae groups. Next, we are going to discuss about the reproduction. Reproduction usually occurs by both the sexual and the asexual methods in red algae species, and the spores usually which are produced from these methods are non-motile. They cannot move from place to place. And sexual reproductions which is highly specialized, here the male gametes which are non-motile, and they are also called as spermatia. And these spermatias are carried by the water current to elongate to the tip of this trichogene or the female sex organ called carpogonium. So where the spermatia could be exchanging its nucleus and undergoing for the formation of zygote. So this type of reproduction can be seen in red algae. Okay, next we are going to talk about the alternation of generation. Alternation of the haploid and diploid multicellular generation that could be seen, that could be occurs like the higher level organism. Alternation of generation that can be defined by the two different generations such as like gametophytic and the sporophytic in the regular sequence one after another, same like the higher level organism. There we could able to see the sexual reproduction which are involving with the two different divisions such as mitosis and the meiosis division. Next, some of the red algae like Harveyella, which is found to be a parasite, and there are few red algae which are acting as an autotrophic or the photosynthetic red algae. When talking about the economic importance for red algae, like Gelidium is one of the organism that is the major source of agar jelly, which is used for culturing of the many microorganisms in the laboratory condition or the microbiological lab. And there are few examples like under the category of these rhodophytes. They are like Porphyra and Chandras, which are also used as a vegetable or the edible purposes. And there are one more example under the category of this red algae, Rhodymenia palmata, so which is used for as a food for the preparation of different types of medicines as well. So these are the general characteristic features and the economic importance of the Rhodophytae or Rhodophyceae of the red algae. Now let us talk about brown algae or Phaeophyceae. So Phaeophyceae, which are also called as brown algae, that includes for 2000 species, okay, which includes for the multicellular forms, which are ranging the size up to the giant size kelp that could able to grow more than 60 to 70 meters under the water in the ocean. And this is one of the best example for this brown algae. And these type of organisms, they are the prominent brownish green seaweeds, and that usually cover the rocks in the tidal zone and extend out in the water for 15 meters deep. Now let us talk about the pigments which are present under the category of brown algae or Phaeophyceae. So here we could able to see like fucoxanthin. So fucoxanthin is one of the pigment that could be seen under the category of this brown algae. Next, talking about one of the example under this category, laminaria. So laminaria is one of the brown algae that could have the hold spot, and with the help of that they could adhere on the surface of the rocks or the thick substances or the material present in the sea or the ocean. Sargassum is one of the type of this brown algae which is abundant in the warmer seas. There we could able to see, and it occurs in huge floating masses, especially in the North Atlantic, and that could cover the thousands of hectares. Okay, the quantity of the sargassum maybe causes the dangerous to ships in that area due to the entangling at the bottom of the ship that could causes the dangerous effect to the ship which is traveling, that could travel in the sea or the ocean. And next we are going to talk about the cell wall of this brown algae. Usually the cell wall of the brown algae, which is made up of or which are covered with the picocolloids, which are also called as alginic acid, and their major responsible are for protecting the brown algae from drying or freezing on their exposure to the air, and also they could able to protect or prevent the brown algae by waves which mechanically beat them with rocks. So that could give the flexibility to the organism in the water current where the high tides that could damages the brown algae. Next we are going to discuss about the reproduction. Asexual reproduction can be commonly seen in the brown algae, which is affected by the fragmentation. The fragments many remain that could be attached on the surface substratum or the floating away and to develop into a new plants such as called sargassum. So in many brown algae, one-celled globular structures which are called as unilocular sporangia, which are formed, which produces the biflagellate zoospores after the meiosis, and these zoospores. And next we are going to talk about the sexual reproduction. In brown algae, the sexual reproduction that is quite variable. It may be the fusion of the flagellated motile and the similar gametes, which are also called as isogamous method. And due to the fusion of small motile and the flagellated sperm and the large stationary egg by the oogamous method. And algin or alginic acid, which are produced commercially under the category of this brown algae from the help, and this can give the gel and thicken mixture which are widely used for making of ice cream. And algin also used for the preparation of candy and toothpaste and cream cosmetics. For example, like under the category of this brown algae, many species like laminaria and sargassum, which are used as a food. Yes, so far guys, we have discussed in detail about the unit 2 plant kingdom algae. Under this category, red algae, brown algae and green algae in detail. And this particular chapter we are going to discuss with one more subtopic. Until then, thank you guys.